Microsoft. Okay, yeah. Okay, you should be able to hear me now. Let me see if that works. Uh, so, okay, just testing it on my phone just to see if yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, should be. Okay, so yeah, you know, yeah, uh, hello everyone, and I've been fairly busy with life recently, so apologies for like not being as active in 2025. But yeah, so basically I've been working on all this code stuff while I've been like taking a break from music and stuff, just I haven't really had as much ideas for new music this year. But I've done quite a lot this year in terms of my code stuff. And I've also had my not part-time, full-time role to attend to, but in terms of my personal projects, yeah, I've mainly been focusing on code, so I thought I'd just kind of walk through most of what I've been doing so far and like kind of tell you a lot about the big what's it called? The big task that I'm going to do before New Year. So yeah, basically I've been working on these things called like npm packages, where like you know if you upload, you can like install those into your projects through say package.json, and like you can import it and use functions from it. I have my utility package, um, which mainly just kind of has a bunch of like simple like functional helpers like this. You can normalize an import path and stuff. You can convert between like bad case, camel case. They're all JS doc commented, so that's where you get all these pretty neat editor tooltips from, which is pretty nice. It makes developing a lot easier when you have all these tooltips helping you. Um, this is just like a quick whistle stop tour, by the way. I'm not going to go too in depth. But yeah, we have all these functions here and stuff, and all of them are tested like this. So you can make sure that like the code behaves exactly as you want it to, which kind of gives me confidence. Um, and also like I've been documenting all my releases. These are actually generated through my command line tool, which I called Alex CLine. So that's cool. And yeah, what's that? I think I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, remind me to never open this file live on stream, because like this contains like secret variables like my GitHub token and stuff, which like would be very bad if that made it onto stream. But yeah, essentially like how you would use it in the project is like you'd export from the entry point, which looks like this as of now, which basically just says like export all the constants, functions, and types. But then like if you go to like the functions index, which is here, okay, it exports like all of these like extra like categories of functions. But then if you go to a specific one, then we export all the usual functions and types from there in this way. And the usage of this in say Neurosongs 2, which isn't out right now but will be hopefully next year at some point, is you would it's like, let me see if there's anywhere that I use it as of now. Yeah, so say this string list to array function that I have gets imported from the name of the package itself. And yeah, if you're wondering how like we store this package in this particular project, by the way, in utility, we run this thing called the build script. So if I do pm run build, pm is just the package manager that I use. We do all this like build stuff, and basically this project is written in like TypeScript, but most but like the internet mainly runs on like JavaScript, so it has to be compiled into pure JavaScript in order for it to work across like JavaScript and also TypeScript. And as you can see, it produces all of this, which all these extra stuff that like it adds kind of like makes it a lot makes it kind of weird. Like this underscore default thing is kind of weird, but like essentially just kind of make sure that like it behaves as you would expect it to. And there's also the common JS output, which like looks even looks even more crazy. Like look at all these like read definitions and all that. Um, yeah. But essentially, like you never have to touch this dist folder. This is like where all the compiled code comes in. But that's essentially what you then use. That's essentially so yeah. Basically, the package then uses well, it is in dist basically, or like, or actually it goes into node modules first. If I can find yeah, and you and then in node modules like it copies over dist and also package JSON and README and also the license. So yeah, there's that. And then yeah, this is pretty much the same sort of thing that we saw back in utility. And then this is essentially referencing that version, which is pretty much exactly the same as the source code version, except like in pure JavaScript and like been compiled to work like with compiled to like by just the TypeScript compiler to ensure like it's compatible with JavaScript and all that. So yeah, that's utility. Next up, I'll go through ESLint plugin. It's another one of my packages. Basically, like projects tend to have like these what's it called? Projects tend to have these like rules that come with them. We call those like the linting rules. So essentially, like they do some extra compile time checking before like before we can ship it off and all that. So if you do pm run lint, like if there were any errors, then like they appear in the terminal. And the nice thing about linting is like you can kind of customize your own compile time errors in a way. If you just so you can like enforce like consistent standards and like check for say accidental console logs in production, stuff like that. So that's pretty neat. So as you can see, like all the linting checks this time passed, but if I were to say add a console log, this should be flagged by my rule, by my use of the no console rule. So if we do pm run lint, we'll hopefully see an error pop up. Yep. So unexpected console statement, only those are allowed in case we want to intentionally log something to the console, but we remove that and then run lint again and it should pass as it did before. The way we define the configs is usually in this ESLint config file, which in this case just kind of references the configs from my plugin. And the configs from my plugin are pretty intense, but essentially like what I do is essentially the issue I had with my plugins initially was that like if I go to my Alex plugin, as you can see with ESLint plugins, you kind of need to instantiate the plugin first and then like define the configs separately. But in my case, the configs like need reference to the plugin. So like if we try and import the plugin in config files, and if we try to import the plugin from the config files, but also the config files need the plugin, or like also like the plugin needs the config files, then like we kind of get this like weird circular import. So what I do is I kind of set up this function which takes in like essentially a snapshot of the plugin, like a copy, like a frozen copy of it, hence the deep freeze and deep copy. So like it's completely detached from like the initial instance of the plugin. And then we kind of populate this flattened config. Or like we populate this with like the configs and stuff. So essentially, this flattened configs, this flattened configs file exists because like ESLint plugins tend to prefer the naming convention of say plugin slash or rather config slash config name like this, or in kebab case. And so what flattened config does is it kind of translates from this kind of nested object into that kind of style, also converting camel case to kebab case. as an ESLint plugin expects, or as ESLint like conventions expect, I should say. And essentially, I have 4 categories of this. I have my personal configs, which is just kind of like, well, I use my personal projects. So, all the configs for like my personal projects are here. Generally, I don't recommend using them in your own projects because they're most likely to change. There's also the general ones, which don't use any of my own custom rules, but they use external rules. So they're like ordered in a way that like should appeal to most projects, so they're fine to use. There's also the plugin configs, which only use plugin rules, and they're also fairly stable. And lastly, the combined configs, which just combines everything, and like they're the least stable. I would not recommend using them unless you me. So yeah, that's the plugin side of my plugin, the config side of my plugin, I should say, and that's essentially how I like check for code quality in all my other projects. So that's pretty neat. It's pretty nice to like have a way to centralize this as well, rather than needing to like copy out the exact same config file everywhere. So it does save a lot of time doing it this way. And then as for the rules themselves, like we essentially yeah, the rules themselves I also create, and essentially what linting does is like it kind of like traverses this like syntax tree of code, and like it says if it finds an import declaration, then it checks for say these. This is a no relative imports rule, no, by the way, so it checks against relative imports. But yeah, like so it visits every. So in this case, like it visits every like import declaration and just kind of goes through, checks the import declaration against this, and if it finds any errors, then it reports the error. Essentially, just saying like relative imports not allowed. I have different sort of configurations for how far we want to allow relative imports. Some are fine, others are insane, and some are just like exceed the depth that like we may want. So yeah. And yeah. Yeah, I think that's a summary. Doesn't seem to be anyone in chat right now I can take questions from, so yeah. Yeah, that's the ESLint plugin. Now the infrastructure repository is one that I came up with fairly recently. It's essentially the one that creates the repositories themselves. I'm kind of going out of order with like what I usually do, but that's because like I have my challenge that I want to get to, and it involves this repository. So essentially, I'm in the process of migrating over to using this completely. But as you can, essentially, like this would like control like the settings and like creation of the repositories and like any settings, branch protection stuff. So what checks are allowed to, what checks need to run in CI in order for a pull request to go through. A pull request, by the way, is just kind of like a thing you make if you want to make changes to main. You have to create a pull request first. Like potentially have me review it before like it eventually goes in. Yeah, essentially what this repository does is it kind of creates all these packages again. So in my case, like I've defined a GitHub repository resource, or rather it comes from the GitHub provider with Terraform. And this is like the default. So any new repository I create will automatically start with these defaults and also these branch protection rules here. And this is all the variables, which like in repositories.tf, which are like the actual repositories, like would kind of like, these are, these are essentially the variables that we pass into here, which then like we'd use to like configure our repository. And yeah, in my case, like I'm just kind of, in my case, like they're fairly simple. I just kind of list out the description, visibility, and like the required checks. And yeah. And the pretty neat thing about that is like, if once you push up a pull request and like have it merged, then like all the other repositories just kind of like immediately update, and that's pretty cool. You can kind of like create the code, create the container that's meant to hold the code by code, and that's just pretty mind-blowing to me. Like usually you'd have to go through like the GitHub UI and just click a load of buttons in the interface. Like doing it programmatically is like just feels a lot nicer to do, to me anyway. Like it gives you more control as well. It's like you can ensure consistent results. You can use programming concepts and stuff. And yeah. But anyway, now that we're here, essentially what the next thing I want to do is I want to add my components package to this. So yeah, right now I've added my utility and the ESLint plugin to this, but the goal is to add the rest of my repositories as well. So we have components left, we have Alex CLine left, my command line tool. We have my GitHub Actions repository, and also Neurosongs 2, which may be a bit more complex, but we'll see about that. Hope not. But anyway, so before we add the components package, let me just open up a new window and just get it up to begin with. Okay, I can do this. Okay. Okay, nice. Okay. Part of me is just a little bit nervous in case I have .env open anywhere, but hopefully I shouldn't. If I expose .env, by the way, like this whole this whole live stream is just kind of done for. Like, no matter what, like it would be done for. But I think we should be fine for now. Okay, so yeah, essentially the components package. This one essentially just kind of hosts a bunch of like React components that can be used like in React projects. In my case, as of now, only Neurosongs 2, but it may expand soon, and I don't know how people would feel about me like maybe creating a blog site one day. That could be cool. Yeah, it's still somewhat work in progress with like the JS.comments, but the kind of idea is already here, and like it kind of hosts React components, and then it's used in Neurosongs 2 already, I think. I actually use it a lot with like the loader provider, by the way, which loader provider is amazing. Like it essentially kind of abstracts away the need to like constantly check the loading and error state manually. So loader provider in components. If I try and find it, it should be in the providers. Yep, here it is. Then yeah, essentially it takes a loading component and also the context props, and the loading component would be like what gets displayed if like the data from the API is currently loading or currently being fetched. And we also have this loader error thing, which you can use in the loader provider to show the error that comes from it. There's also the loader data, which is pretty nice because like it allows you to essentially grabs hold of the data for you, and then you can just kind of like use it in as the children already without needing to check it yourself, which I think is pretty neat. So yeah, then I could probably show how it works in Neurosongs 2 as of now. This would be the first time that I actually show off Neurosongs 2. And yeah, I'm sorry, it's just at work. It's just that at work we use what? Invalid env. Right. I need to npm install. I think, is that right? I might actually need to pull the main. We're already up to date. Why is it failing then? I just don't know. Like, it's like, okay, wait. That's weird. It's like this shouldn't have passed CI if something like this happened, but fine, I'll fix it quickly. Fix backends dev error. So yeah, this is essentially what I do to like pull requests. By the way, this is a pretty nice nice little detour. Yeah, I don't know why it passed CI because like that definitely should have been caught in CI during like the dependency updates where like this would have happened. But essentially, what it tells me is like somewhere where I'm seeding. It's probably it's wherever I'm doing parsenv, I think. Parsenv. Okay. Thankfully, like we don't actually have to like expose any M files. I don't think so. Wait. Here. Okay. It's in errors.ts. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see why it would have. It's because yes. Yes, because you know, I don't think this thing ever really gets run in the test. Actually, it should. That's why I am error testing. So like this shouldn't have passed the test. Like I don't know why it didn't. I don't know why it did, but you know. So anyway, now that we've done the fix, what we essentially do is we do this git add thing. Git is basically what we use for version tracking. Do I have any chat messages, by the way? I can't actually see the chat. There we go. Okay. But yeah, there's no chat messages, so we're fine. Okay. This is my album repository, by the way. It's pretty nuts, by the way. I essentially store all my logic files in it. Like all my logic and synth files are stored in this repository. It's pretty nuts. But it's nice because like it means like I have a nice backup for my music now. I used to I used to lose my project files all the time. Like it just kind of got very frustrating when I did. So I'm very glad that I've done that now. But okay, so anyway, tangent aside, Git is essentially what we use for version control and like allows us to back up errors and stuff if we need to. Like not back up errors and stuff, but back up files and stuff. So yeah, or like back up the projects. Like in case we ever like lose the project files locally, God forbid, sometimes like we can just like pull down the repository and like reinitialize environment variables and we're good. But yeah. And it also helps like when you're deploying stuff. 'Cause, like I would not want to deploy a repository that's I would not want to deploy a project that's not a Git repository, That just sounds like ridiculously cursed in my view. It's like what if something goes wrong? Like it's just not as easy to control. Like you can only upload like a single instance, like you don't get easy iteration. But anyway, fix parsem commit message will be fix parsem error in backend. And generally, like you can also justify like why you've done the change. So in this case, like if node end is undefined, it doesn't necessarily fall back to. Oh, I see now. Yeah, because like it wouldn't go away. Yes, because the tests run in the test environment, so node end would always be defined there. But of course, in this case, like it wasn't. So if node end is undefined, it doesn't necessarily fall back to development. Hence, default must be provided. I'm missing out initially because because the tests run in a test environment, not development. Hence, we never got a chance to test out npm run dev in CI. Watch it fail. And also have this pre-commit hook as well, which basically just kind of runs through all the pre-commits. Basically runs through all the formatting, just make sure all the code is like formatted nicely and also built. Like it runs through all the build first to build all the packages, just in case it needs it. Then it goes and formats everything, make sure like the code is presentable, which is nice because like you don't have it ensures that like you have a consistent style across the project, and you also don't have to worry about it yourself. So that's neat. Linting, as I explained before, just kind of checks for any like errors in your code or any like errors, compile time errors that you've defined are unacceptable, or even just like whatever you use from whatever you've configured. And the tests, just usual code tests, ensure like the code runs as expected. Once we get through all that, the commit should be made. If it fails, you have to then fix it before you can make the commit. And then, like, of course, once we're happy, we can push to origin and fix the error. Also have this pull request template thing, which ensures like the change is well documented in the pull request. In this case, it's a bug fix. Create pull request, create pull request. And this is the CI thing I've been talking about, by the way. It essentially runs like all the same linting checks and stuff, but in a non-local environment. So it ensures that like minimizes the chance of like the usual excuse of like it works on my machine. It ensures like if it's run like on a machine that's not yours, in this case the CI environment, like it still more or less behaves as you expect. That's essentially what this is here for. In this case, like the procedure can be pretty long, and it's going to take some time to complete. But it just gives some nice confidence in the refactors when you have this step. Like, it is nice to have around. Okay. Oh god, the Neurosongs CI takes a long time, mainly because it's a turbo repo. Like all my other packages are just like standalone repositories, but Neurosongs is essentially a mono repo, which means like it has a bunch of apps and packages in the same repository. And so like there's a lot of since it hosts the back end, the front end, and also the packages, the app specific packages, that is, like it has to lint and test against all those, and like the process could take a while, so you kind of have to be patient with it. I don't know if like I have parallel running for linting checks on. If not, I probably should look into it, because like 48 seconds just to do some compile time checks is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, now that it's done, we can merge the pull requests and it should be good. That was a fun little side tangent there, but hopefully now it means that pm run dev will work. Yeah. Why is localhost still refusing to connect though? What? That is weird. What? Hold on. This should. Huh? Oh, is it probably? Is it because I'm streaming? I don't know. Let's not worry about it for now. But yeah, essentially, like you would essentially like, the components would show there and stuff, but you'll see once Neurosong 2 comes out. But yeah, it's a shame I couldn't show you that because like, it would have been nice to give a nice little preview of Neurosongs 2. But anyway, so the task now, by the way. So essentially, what we want to do is right now this components repository is just kind of living on GitHub alone. If I open this up, go to github.com, profile. In fact, it would be, yeah, essentially like the components repository is not currently being controlled by Terraform, is kind of living as is right here. So like all these settings I have enabled, like, that they came from me just kind of like clicking around in GitHub itself rather than like programmatically through Terraform. Well, I want this for it to be controlled by Terraform, right? For me, the way we can kind of distinguish it is like there's no description under components, so like it kind of implies like it was created manually and still controlled manually, whereas utility has some helpful utility functions, the description there. You can actually set the description beforehand, but I just didn't when I initially created it. But that's essentially our sign, right? That's essentially our sign in GitHub itself. If we see the description there, because I will set it through Terraform and like, and then like we'll always have a description from that point on. So essentially, what we need to do is just start up components equals. Essentially, just follows similar sort of pattern here, right? So in order to migrate over, we just need to get the description, and I'm actually going to add a full stop. I'm sorry, I'm just pedantic. Full stop. Like, we need to have that full stop here. I'm sorry, guys. It's just been bothering me when I haven't been having it there, but like we need that full stop. And yeah, as you can see, like we have all these warnings from ESLint in components because I want to eventually move to components having all JS dot comments. As of now, like since I didn't initially create components with the JS dot comments, it's probably documentation change. But yeah, since I didn't initially create the components with the JS dot comments, like I have to go back and like manually add them all myself, but it'll be worth it. Oh yeah, another thing that would be a telltale sign that we're using Terraform, we'd be able to auto merge this. Some repositories have this, others don't, but with Terraform, like we'll be able to like have it so like we can just kind of toggle this we'll be able to toggle this allow auto merges, wherever it is, yeah, allow auto merge to true. And then like all repositories should be able to auto merge. Since it's in the default, like anything I change here will go through to all repositories, so that'd be nice. And it also prevents like different repositories having slightly different configurations, so that's why I also like this as well. But yeah. Okay, so now we have this, we can post merge cleanup. This git post merge cleanup, by the way, just kind of does the usual check out main, go and delete branch, and pull from main, stuff like that. And it's just kind of nice to do it in all in one command rather than needing to do like three in one, having to do three separate commands all the time. So I like that. So description will go out like that. Visibility will go out as public, and required CI checks checks. I think in components it would be called that because it's using the one for my actions. If I have a look at what it is, you can just access one of these version change ones. This comes from this by the way comes from what's it called? This it comes from like Alex line by the way, and like or rather it comes from the action. So like I have an action to automatically update these the version number if a release note exists, and the release note is generated through Alex line. And yeah, it's called CI/PMPMCI. The first thing here doesn't really matter in this case. You just use this. But yeah, essentially like, oh yeah, I also need to check create a new branch by the way, so let's call it add components. A branch by the way is just allows you to kind of like work on stuff without affecting main. So that's you know, it gives you just a nice little place to kind of like experiment with features and just kind of like play around, and you know whatever you do shouldn't break main as long as you do it on this branch essentially. It'll only break main once you merge, but as long as like the checks pass and stuff, like it should be fine. So now we have this, we can create commits, add components to Terraform or something like that. Actually, I'll say add components repository to Terraform. As usual, the linting and stuff. Yes, even Terraform has linting and formatting. I think it's just Terraform FMT -recursive. And that's how it formats that. Okay, so now that we've done that, what we need to do is we need to import the Terraform project, because right now like Terraform does not know about my components repository, so we need to make it aware of it by doing Terraform import and then just do this like module.repository thing. In fact, okay. We want to import the repository itself first, not the branch protection rule. And the reason we need .env, by the way, is so that like it connects to my own repositories and not like someone else's. .env just kind of imports from this env file, which I'm being very cautious not to click right now because that would be a disaster. But essentially, it stores my GitHub token and stuff, so that's why I do not want to show it at all. So yeah. And let's also import the let's also import the branch protection rules. So in this case, I want to make sure that instead of ESLint plugin, we import components, and we import to the main branch protection rule. We import the current main one that exists. And then we want to import the wildcard one, which kind of catches any branch protection, which covers any branches that doesn't already have branch protection rule. In this case, it would be like all the feature branches and stuff. Main is already covered by the main branch protection rule. This just covers everything else essentially. That's how I have it for now, at least. And then, in case you're wondering what my branch protection rules are, I essentially just kind of have required status checks, like we need the branch to be up to date before merging, which is what the strip thing does. Context is essentially the list of like the CI checks, required pull request reviews. It's just here to like ensure that like pull requests are needed. We don't need to have reviews on because it's mainly just me doing it anyway. And for all the other ones, we just allow deletions and force pushes. So like you can like force push in the pull request, and you can also delete the branch. Yeah, now that we've imported all the things from the existing components, we can now push to our add components branch. This would be, you can say new feature. I feel like I'm going a bit too fast, but feel free to say in the comment. Feel free to say in the comments after this, by the way, if you have any questions. So yeah, essentially, I have the CI script that kind of runs to verify that like everything works as expected as usual. Oh no, the application is errored. Okay, it's fine. We're back now. So yeah, so the Terraform CI is pretty interesting because like I have my own workflow here, which kind of does all the usual printing checks and stuff. But this is run by Terraform Cloud itself, and it kind of tells you essentially like roughly what changed, roughly what changes between. It kind of tells you like the plan, what it plans to change and stuff, and in this case, like it replaces a few things, replaces the repository ID with the name, and it then applies all these settings to the GitHub repository to ensure that like it's up to date and stuff. And most of it is fine. It's mainly just there to kind of give you a nice little overview so you can be absolutely sure that you're getting the changes you want. And once you merge it, if you go back to the runs, it's currently queuing the plan, and the merge into main is what triggers this plan to kind of start running itself. So you don't need to really think too much about the deployment, which is nice. And then it creates a plan and shows it again just to be sure, and then it automatically applies from there. And yeah, they've all been updated and replaced and stuff. So if we now go to my repositories, or like if we go to my profile, then like we should see components now has a description, hence it is now being controlled by Terraform, and that is neat. Essentially code to like code to create and like manage the repositories themselves is essentially what this is, and it's pretty epic, I feel. Yeah, really neat stuff, and most of it's more or less the same as it was before. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I, like it's one of the nice things about software development to me. Like, where else can you say like you've created code to like create the thing that stores code in the first place? Like, it's just nuts. Like the level of abstraction that you can get to here. But anyway, next up, I think we'll do Alex C-line because that's fairly low risk to make it controlled by Terraform. It's essentially my command line tool. I use Commander for it, and Xcur for like scripting, which is slightly better than exec sync, especially for a project like this. But then, yeah, I'm not going to show too much of it because, like, you know, we need to add that full stop again because, like, I'm pedantic. Of course, you don't have to have a full stop in the description. I'm just pedantic. I don't know how I've let that through all this time, but, you know. We're a bit short on time, so I kind of want to go a bit faster now because, like, it's New Year soon. I want to migrate completely to Terraform before the New Year, so, you know, as fun as it has been trying to walk through all my packages and stuff, like, we need to go a bit faster. Okay, this is a documentation change, pull request, create pull request. In this case, we have auto merge enabled, so we can just enable auto merge and go into infrastructure, add C line in. What's going on here? Okay. Check out new branch, add C line. Go back into school Alex C line and then copy over the description. Go back into infrastructure, paste it in. Should be the same with CI check, by the way. Like C line to Terraform. Then we need to do all the usual imports. So you'd first start off with the GitHub repository. C line. Ah! Okay. Don't worry, you just open your songs. Thank God it didn't open them. I just kind of misclicked for a bit and, like, I just kind of mistyped in my keyboard. And, like, thank God it didn't open in the .m file, like GitHub repository.default and like C line like that. Yep. Okay, we're good though. Okay. We also want to import the branch protection rules, so the main. Why can I not? Okay, there we go. This is the main one. Change this to Alex C line, go back, change quoted to Alex C line. It's just a bit of manual work having to migrate over, but once you get into the flow, it's fine. We can do this in 15 minutes. We just need to define the description, visibility, and required CI checks, and yeah. Next step, by the way, would be secrets management, but I kind of want to take it like one step at a time. You know, kind of want to get like the baseline version through, just like the usual repository settings and branch protection rules first. And then once I've done that, then I'd be happy to do the the secrets management stuff. Not on stream though, because like secrets management is absolutely not something you should do on stream. I would be incredibly concerning trying to do that on stream. Because like, what if I accidentally I'm not gonna enable auto merge. I want to check the plan first. you know, what if I accidentally leak my environment variables and stuff? Like, that would be very bad. So we're not doing that. Let's check the plan. I think the plan is running, but we can open it. Yep, so it's just gonna create Alexia line, replace all these replace all these settings, merge pull requests, confirm merge, go back here. So we just wait. Or we can have a look at the run if we really want to, but let's just look at the GitHub UI and see it appear. We just need to refresh it a bit sometimes, but hopefully at some point it should show. Come on. Okay, maybe I want to look at the run just in case. Okay, it's still applying. Okay. Yeah, it's just kind of placing. Yep. Okay, now if we go back, it was here. Nice. Okay, we're almost there now. Let's do GitHub Actions next. The Actions repository is not actually pinned because I can only have 6 pins, so I decided to sacrifice the GitHub Actions repository. But essentially here, it would still show the description when it's up. I actually need to delete this. This was just a quick little experiment. I'm going to delete this. Read understood. Passkey should be fine. It's just from my browser. There's no secrets involved. But yeah, essentially this is the GitHub Actions repository. If I just open that up, GitHub Actions. So concerning, like a lot of these repositories are opening in like different states because like, you know, what if I accidentally have .env open on one of them? Like, in this case I don't, so we're good. Do not click on this. The stream is over if I click on any env files, but we're fine for now. Yeah, essentially this just kind of like defines all my like workflows. This is essentially what I used to define like the CI jobs that we've been seeing all this time. In this case, this is what the PnPm CI job looks like. We just kind of check out the repository, install PnPm, install node, install the dependencies build, lint, and if the repository has tests, we run the tests. And then we also have this publish action, which actually uses trusted publishing because npm supports that. It's pretty neat. So no need for manual token management. But you need to make sure you have this, by the way. This absolutely burned me 2 weeks ago, it seems. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. That was when it burned me. It's like, it just kept failing otherwise. Like, it just took me way too long to figure that out. Like, my God, it was so frustrating, but we got through it. Yeah, we want to link that now, so go back to infrastructure. In fact, before we do that, we want to go back to main and then branch off again. Check out new branch, we add GitHub Actions repository. Just call it repository just so you don't confuse it with actually adding GitHub Actions to the repository, as in like the actual actions. Got my throat is getting a bit. Okay, packages, common GitHub Actions. I know, I shouldn't really care that much about the full stop, but here we are. 10 minutes. Okay, we can do this. We can do this. Okay. Okay, we can do this. Okay. Okay. That should be in time for the fireworks, by the way. But I'm not going to stream the fireworks. Let's go back to infrastructure. I kind of want to enjoy the fireworks on my own. That's not it. GitHub Actions. Yeah. Okay, come on. Okay. Go back here. Visibility public, and provide CI checks. This time, I think it's just action CI, if I'm right. But let me have a look at what it is currently. It should just be go to my branch protection rules, go to main. Yeah, just actions-ci. It only needs to be this CI slash thing if we're using an action from the actions, but in this case, like since the actions repository is kind of its own thing, we don't need the CI slash. Add GitHub actions repository to Terraform. Okay. We also need to do the imports. This will be GitHub actions. Okay. We can do this. We have 8 minutes. Okay. Just really lock in now. Really lock in. GitHub actions. Okay. Come on, Terraform. Don't let me down. Don't make me miss the fireworks. Okay. Main. Okay. This should be GitHub actions. Main. Go all the way back. Okay. Take some time, but like. Okay. Yeah. Okay. GitHub repository. Okay. GitHub actions. I don't know if there's a fast way to navigate this. Huge terminal line, but you know. Okay. Six minutes to do Neuro songs. Are we gonna do this? Probably not. I mean, we covered Neuro songs already, and like I feel like I've done like most of the I feel like we've done enough infrastructure stuff now. Like all the packages are done now, so you know. I don't think I want to risk doing Neuro songs in like 6 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. Like all my packages are done now, so I've done most of the work now. I think I'll just do Neuro songs in my own time. Might be fiddlier because of the monorepo, but also don't expect it to be. It should behave like more or less the same as like most of my other packages. But 6 minutes. Okay, we actually, you know what? We can do it. We can do it. I don't know. I mean, this Terraform rule. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's monitor the runs. I just really want to not miss the fireworks right now. Okay, that's what I'm most concerned about. Like, let's just see how long the runs take. Okay, we're not gonna make Neuro songs. We're not gonna make Neuro songs, but we'll follow the same pattern. I'm fairly sure. Plus, I went through Neuro songs anyway, even though like couldn't actually run it for some reason. I don't actually know why, but I couldn't. But yeah. yeah, let's just check that GitHub Actions now works. Like GitHub Actions is now controlled by Terraform. We go to repositories. Yep, common GitHub Actions used across my repositories. Yep. Okay, so that's it for now. I think I think this is as far as we're gonna get this stream because I wanna watch New Year's Eve fireworks. I'm not gonna do the countdown with you lot. I'm sorry, guys, but you know, that's kind of when I watch fireworks in my own time. I think. Yeah. Thanks for anyone watching after the stream. I guess. It's certainly been quite an interesting experience doing this with you. Um, yeah, that's essentially what I've been up to. And, it's been pretty neat trying to get that done with you all. Why is the screen static like that? I don't know. It's probably just like on some old state or something. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching and see you in 2026. Goodbye for now.